welcome back to Tyrants on the Field. As always, I'm your host, Joe. Yep, that's right. Brand new steamroller for 2025 has made its way through, and inevitably, it has run us over yet again with a giant level of innovation and polish that I'm very happy to see in a sophomore outing for the brandy new packet. A couple of big quality of life improvements this packet. One, as you're reading it, you will notice that you get into the scenarios in like a page, page and a half, as opposed to like 13 pages of stuff specific to TOs before, players get to actually look at what the player cares about. And then the uh, TO stuff is all still there. It's just after all of the scenario things. So nice bit of quality improvement there. Um, let's talk about the new keys. Oh my goodness, are these scenario map renderings so much better, so much cleaner and clearer? You can tell what every element is at a glance. You can tell whose element it is at a glance. And because all of these scenarios are symmetrical, a lot quicker for getting the game going and on its way. Um, big change. That's a little change, but it's a big change. The flag and the cache have moved to 30 millimeter in size. The 30 millimeter general objective is gone. Um, so Solo's value in this packet greatly diminished. Still can score flags, still can pick up caches, still can contest caches. That's right, caches can be contested. Uh, so that is a change from previous versions of this type of packet, but a very big emphasis on 50 millimeter objectives. Um, also a change to scoring objective terrain, i.e. the things that the flags go in. The objective terrains that you are able to be in, your clouds, your forest, your rubbles, your craters, your hazards, because there's no stopping of that now in the new packet. All the things that you can illegally enter and be within. You now score the terrain if you have two models completely within them, and your opponent has no models within them. Uh, if you have a terrain feature that you've selected that you are unable to enter legally, then you would score it if you have two models within 3 inches and your opponent has no models within 3 inches, and your opponent can contest those within 3 inches. So objective terrain, not as far of a scoring footprint as it had previously. I think that's a very good thing overall for the packets, but is a change. Because previously they were 2 inches, now it is 3, but only if you're unable to enter the terrain. If you can enter the terrain, then in order to contest it, you have to be within that terrain feature itself um, to contest. So that's a pretty big change, and is going to affect quite a bit. Cache is also very big change. Again, we talked about their 30 millimeters. You now contest them if you are within 3, and you can score them if you're within 3. If they are uncontested and you have a model within 3, you can forfeit your combat action to then go ahead and pick up that cache, and that cache is then worth 2, provided it is uncontested. So now I think cache has become a really dynamic and interesting bit of a lot of these scenarios, and they're in quite a few of the scenarios. So very, very excited to see there. That first tiebreaker remains victory points. Both players will look at army points destroyed. The second tiebreaker, slight change, now called scenario presence. You tally the point cost of the remaining models and units by each player within contesting range of objectives, caches, or scenario terrain that could potentially control the element regardless of whether it's currently contested or not. Ignore models without a point cost and Warjacks, Wild War Beast. The player with the highest point total wins that game. All right, let's talk a little bit about the scenarios themselves. My favorite one here is Color Guard, and let me tell you why I love Color Guard. Color Guard is sort of the new recon. It is the new base one where you've got two 50mm objectives. You have two caches and you have two flags. So uh, again, from a design standpoint, we've got two basically triangles facing off against each other, slightly offset. To the left, with the caches towards the back at 1216. You've got the 50mm objective 23 inches up the board, basically on the center line, 16 inches over. And then you have your flag terrain 16 inches up and 18 inches from the left, from the player, from the player right. Uh, the twist in this scenario is at the end of each scoring round after points have been scored, starting with the first player, each player places their opponent's flag on a terrain piece within 5 of the last terrain piece not already used as a scenario terrain by either player. And if no terrain piece is valid for that placement of the flag, then the flag does not move. The flag remains in that location until the end of the game. And the scoring goes as such. An objective secured is worth 1 victory point. Cash scored is worth 2 victory points. And a scenario terrain scored is worth 2 victory points. There is no limit to the number of victory points a player can earn, and fixed length of 7 games, or 7 turns. All right, so what does this mean? This means that the objective is going to start where you select it, and then your opponent is going to move it around your area, essentially, um, or within 5 of the last terrain piece. And if you run out of options to move it, then it stops moving. So the game can get very interesting, and this is moving terrain that actually matters. This is what Battlefield wanted to be uh, in many cases, because again, we have we have a moving objective, but that objective now is a terrain feature. The terrain features are definitionally harder to score and harder to contest. Additionally, we have upped the value of scoring them. So because we've added this point of contention, meaning there's going to be movement of this thing that is difficult to get into, difficult to score, we are upping the ante on it. So this is the type of design I absolutely love. This is, you know, purposefully making the thing that is, valuable in the scenario uh, that also has rules that are not initially intuitive. Um, easy to parse for the player. So I know that my high value target, which is going to be moving around, and my opponent is going to be moving mine, and I'm going to be moving my opponent's. Um, is trying to maximize our skill expression by where we want that terrain feature, where we start moving that in order to figure out where we can get it to end. force it into conflict with our terrain feature. Like there's a lot of little nuance with it that is exceedingly exciting. Um, and so I am very excited to play some color guard games as soon as I can. Trench Warfare, again, a new one here, and brings in a brand new concept. Trench Warfare is going to be the first time that we see these objectives. Kind of get some additional rules that are going to benefit uh, certain model types. So all of the objectives in trench warfare gain the earthworks rule. And the earthworks rule is while within 3 of a player's own 40 millimeter or 50 millimeter objective, medium and small based warrior models gain cover and blast resistance or resistance blast. And you've got 240s, 250s, 2 flags, and 2 caches. So we have a very high volume of scoring elements. Those scoring elements uh, are going to be providing us additional benefit to our medium and small based infantry in the form of blast resistance and cover. And again, we have on our scenario terrain. So again, scenario terrain um, gets a different application here. So if we're able to score our opponent's scenario terrain, it is worth 2 victory points. Our own scenario terrain, we get 0 victory points for. So there's no scoring your own terrain piece. We are only concerned with our opponent's terrain piece, which makes sense because this is supposed to be about taking the opponent's trench and being in sort of a trench warfare situation where we're trying to emulate that, and it's about taking ground where you can. So I like the concept here quite a bit. And again, scoring a cache is worth 2 points. Again, no maximum VP, and the game ends at the end of the 7th player's second turn. Again, victory point scenario victory has not changed. They have spelled it out a little bit easier, um, which is during your opponent's scoring during your opponent's turn, their victory point total is 3 points higher than the opponent's. A player um, wins the game. So again, we're trying to get 3 more than our opponent, not on our turn, because we cannot win the game on our turn. We have to win it on our opponent's turn, and that goes across the board. Again, all of these have kill box, as that is just a base steamroller rule. Now, Wolves at Our Heels is essentially the same Wolves at Our Heels that we were playing all of last year, with one minor tweak. Besides the cache moving to 30 millimeter and the general cache changes. Uh, I'm sorry, the caches have been removed in Wolves altogether. So that is a change. No, there was no caches. There was flags. Um, so the flags remain. Um, 1 victory point for scoring a uh, ter terrain feature. 1 for an objective secured, and then as you move the objectives, the turn is now irrelevant. What matters is the first 40 mil that has completely crossed the 24-inch center line of the map earns 3 victory points. If both objectives cross at the same time, then no points are earned in this manner. Scoring of this goal is checked only once per game. There is no limit to the total number of points that can be earned. Yada, yada, yada. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the old stuff. Payload is here. Payload makes me immensely sad. I still don't like payload. I think that the changes here help payload. It is now fully symmetrical. Um, there is a flag objective terrain. You only score points for the objective being secured. Terrain objective doesn't score you anything. Um, moving the item in now just nets you a jackpot of 3 as opposed to 5. Now, one of the things that does help with the original issue of payload is that if the fifth eliminator objective ends its movement within the area of the scenario terrain, um, or if it's within the scenario terrain piece is impassable within 3 of the piece itself, then the player immediately earns 3 victory points. Remove objectives from play. So what it tells you there is, one, you need to actually get it within the terrain piece, and that you should not have a terrain piece available in that area that is essentially impossible to enter. So you avoid moving up that distance by 3 inches. It's still not great. It's still not where you want. Not where I personally like this to be. Again, it's cool. It's a call out to our childhood of playing Team Fortress 2, but I just fundamentally have some issues this uh, with this scenario, and we'll see if they bear out over time. But yeah, I'm not excited for payload in the packet. What I am excited for is revised two fronts. Um, revised two fronts, again, we have the same setup of 50s and 40s. The 50s and 40s are going to be on the same side, regardless of player 1 or 2. And which side is taken, so that is nice. Additionally, instead of a 30 mil, we now have a second player gets a central flag, meaning they get a flag basically at the 24-inch mark. And that flag will stay on a terrain feature in that area with one additional bonus point, or with scenario terrain is going to score 1 victory point. Each objective is worth 1. If you score both 40s or both 50s, you get the additional 2 victory points. So 2 fronts is 2 fronts. Looks good. Excited to see how it plays out, and looking forward to playing it some more. The addition of the central scenario terrain is something that I advocated for. Personally, I just thought that would be a good solution, as opposed to the 30 mil that was there, and I think this is a great fix. Yeah, I think just moving it to the center and making it objective terrain is a great call. All right, let's talk about incursion. I mean, best laid plans. So if you're a billion years old, like me, you may remember a very early scenario in the early days of Steamroller called incursion. And incursion was nefarious and notorious, because incursion had 3 flags in the middle of the table, and you would roll a die, and one of those flags would disappear. And it would feel awful or great depending upon how you interact with this game and kind of your general mindset towards scenario design. Um, they have kept the spirit of that, but they have made it a little better. And as I call this, this is probably the best way to design this type of scenario. Um, and I know many people feel that this is one of the worst mechanics in the game. I actually am on team let's have stuff disappear. Um, because I like dynamic battlefields when it makes sense. The way that this is implemented makes sense to me. Essentially, what it says is, okay, in this particular battle, um, one of these three central element types, are going to go away. Either the 40s are going to go away, the 50s are going to go away, or the caches are going to go away. But I will always have mine and my opponent's objective terrain. That is a fixed point that will always score, which is centralized. So that means, regardless of what happens on the battlefield, if I'm playing centrally, I will be all right, because I can either pivot left or right depending upon where the item has, or where the battle has decided that the objectives are not in play. And if the central one is removed, I am not decimated because I still have the need for central presence because of the two um, terrain features. So that I like. And then again, it's starting at the second player's second turn. At the end of each player's turn. Okay, sorry. When do we roll to see? At the end of the second player's first turn, the second player rolls a d3. And at that point, you determine whether you remove both caches from the game on a 1, remove both 40s from the game on a 2, or both 50s from the game on a 3. And again, from a scoring standpoint, each objective scored is worth 1 victory point. Scenario terrain secured is worth 1 victory point, and then scoring a cache is worth 2 victory points. And again, game ends on the second player's 7th turn. So I think this solves a lot of the problems with the old incursion, because again, you just have more general scoring elements. The elements, we're going to actually remove an element type each of the games, and at the timing that you do it is before the actual turn where you would go in to start scoring. So all of these things make it more humane design. Overall, very, very happy with the packet. I think they do a lot of great things from a design standpoint. I think they're continuing on and refining um, the essence of what was 2024 and the big experiments, and getting us to think differently about the game and what's possible within a steamroller. And I think this does a couple things. One, it makes it a lot easier on cognitive load for the players. I think it's going to be much easier to understand what each of these scenarios do at a glance. I think it's going to be easier for players and TOs to set up these scenarios at a glance. And I think that the skill expression available in these scenarios is even higher than it was in 2024's packet. Because these scenarios, I think, are built to really coax and coerce that skill expression all the way from the beginning of list building on downward. The real emphasis by having always at least two 50s on the table as a potential scoring element, and I say potential just because of best laid plans, uh, it really puts an emphasis on battle group. And if we can get the emphasis back on battle group, I think War Machine gets into a very good spot because battle group does a couple things for you. One, it's very expensive. It's an expensive investment for the Army, but it, because of that points sink, it forces some differences and nuance in the rest of the list. Where infantry tends to be, when you're battle group light, you tend to have a lot of general redundancy in the infantry packages that you run or you're able to run. All right. Also today, we finally got word about the Iron Gauntlet for 2025. A couple of big changes in this Iron Gauntlet. The biggest change, well, two of the biggest changes. One, all Iron Gauntlet events now must be played at 100 points. So we are at 100 point standard. Welcome to the new 100 point meta. It has been decreed on high. IG now forever until the next packet. Must be played at 100 points. All Iron Gauntlet events from Adepticon onwards must require fully painted armies as outlined in Steamroller 2025. You can then, they provide some information about how to get your event sanctioned. And if you want to get your event sanctioned, you'll need to apply for that starting from Wednesday, February 5th. And they will share details in next week in the weekly War Machine update for next week. The finals will be held at Lock and Load, which has been revealed to take place at Warfare Weekend later this year. Please get your tickets or sign up for War Machine events for the Adepticon keynote, which you can find there. So Lock and Load going to be at Warfare Weekend. I think the writing on that was fairly clear, and excited to see Steamforge Games and Lock and Load, Lock and Load moniker returning, and interested to see how that works for Iron Gauntlet. I cannot express how fundamentally disappointed I am in the from Adepticon onwards, all qualifiers must require fully painted armies as outlined in Steamroller 2025. Couple of things. One, it is absolutely Steamforge's baby and event, and for their specific event, the finals, yeah, that has and always was and always will be a painted event. Makes total and complete sense. Adepticon, again, always a complete and total painted event. Forcing painting on local and regional IG events, which have propped up this format for the last few years because of waning interest in the community and areas that are trying to keep their metas together or spark and regrow metas. And you go ahead and throw a bucket of water on them and go, paint your crap. That's not going to sit amazingly well with a lot of the War Machine community. I know specifically in the Pacific Northwest of between Canada and the United States, and I know that's an area where I know a lot of folks have worked very hard to keep the fires burning and keep the hope alive and get people through till they find an army in Mark IV that they like. And forcing hobby on people is not how you do this. And I'm a hobbyist. I'm a hobbyist first in many cases. Um, how you do this is incentivizing people to want to paint for these events, want to come and play fully painted, having special things that you get for being fully painted, like, I don't know, maybe a limited edition figurine that can be part of the prize kit. That is kind of like a door prize for being fully painted. That would be something. That would be something that you would get a lot of people painting for the first time for, because nerds love swag, nerds love rare crap, and if you can get it, make it part of the IG kit. Maybe you got to have part of the qualification is you got to buy this IG kit, and this IG kit has, X number of these fully painted models in it for, each participant, and you jack up whatever you need to jack that price up to make it reasonable for you. Um, and you do it that way, and you encourage folks to paint as opposed to going, if you're not painted, if you're not fully painted, don't bother coming to my event. So what you've done is you've halved your general attendance to these qualifiers, and you've killed off the smaller feeder qualifiers. You just have. Like, that is the reality of what was done with this update and action. And I'm not here for it. I think generally painting is a good thing, and I think the hobby should be painted. But I want people to want to paint. I don't want to force people to paint because you can't play if you're not painted. That doesn't make any sense. That just means that they can't play. And goodness forbid they have, some physical or mental handicap that actively prevents them from being able to paint. Now we're just being exclusionary and ableist, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And I want people to be in this hobby, and I want people to be playing this game and to continue to play this game because it's a great game. Be interested in and be interested in the competitive level of play, and I want to build on ramps. And this decision is one that I see clearly as a barricade, and I don't like barricades as a general concept. But again, I'm not in charge of the SFG. I'm not in charge of this decision, and I don't agree with this decision, frankly. So I know people are going to have their feelings on it one way or the other. Um, but for me, I think this is going to result in smaller attendance than needs to be at different IGs. For me, it isn't going to affect me because, pardon me, I play painted anyway. But it will affect people that I care about, and will affect people that would come to events that otherwise or wouldn't come that won't come to events now that would otherwise, because they're actively being being told that their business is not wanted at an event because they don't have a fully painted army. So not a huge fan of that. There's going to be return of organized play kits though. That is very exciting. Additionally, there's going to be some paint and take play kits that will be available as well for order, which is very exciting. I think that's a great way to encourage painting as opposed to mandated painting. Um, but yeah, I am very excited for Steamroller 2025. I am I am less excited for IG 2025. And that's where I'm at. I don't know how these changes have hit you. Love to hear about it. But that's me, and I will see you on the next one.